Welcome to the Prepare to Fight Fire podcast. Another episode. Let's run it. What's up, man? What's going on?
What's up? What's up, dude? Doing good. Thanks for having me, man. Big fan.
No, man, I'm a big fan too. We were just talking about what Brigands Co stands for, and I think it's awesome. And I think it's awesome. So I want you to tell the guests what in your what in your viewpoint what it really means, your company, and what it stands for.
So, Brigands Co, we just a quick down and dirty. We got started in 2015. Me and my brother were at First Ranger Battalion at the time and started slinging, what we would call t-shirts for the boys, basically. And that's turned into quite a bit over the years as we got out of the military and felt a lack of community around us. We felt like using what we had built with Brigands Co and the following that we had kind of cooperated with over the last couple years at Ranger Battalion. We wanted to use that as a beacon in the civilian world, whether it's first responders, law enforcement, and anything, military veterans, guys that are in the military. I mean, we look to put meetups together and get people on the same wavelength, and in order to find more people that are like us, that like to serve, that are motivated, that hold fitness to a high regard, live in the Ranger Creed, whether they know it or not, 100% and then some. And yeah, that's what we've really focused on in the last couple years in the community and the fire service while we've been in ourselves. And then we do some other fun stuff on the side. Our other owner, RJ Casey, spearheads a lot of our film projects. We work on military consulting, safeties, stunt rigging, things like that on movie sets. So that's been another pretty fun venture.
That's awesome, man. And let me ask you, dude. You talk about being a ranger. I did not serve in the military. That's one thing I wish I would have done. I kind of just jumped right into the fire service. But what does it mean to you to be a ranger? How proud are you to carry that title? And have you kind of hung that hat up, or is it something you'll have with you forever?
Man, that's a great question. That's a really good question. Man, I hold that title to a high regard only because I know the men that make up that unit. The Ranger Regiment is a beast like no other, and I feel only grateful that I was able to walk through those hallways for the time that I did. I grew up me and my brother both in a pretty strict household. My dad was a career fireman as well, and he was a triple cert, so he still carried his law enforcement badge, and he ran a pretty tight ship, I would say. And when I got that, set me up for a lot of success as I started the military. But when I got to Ranger Regiment, the amount of leadership quality I was surrounded by was sublime. I mean, you could not forge better leaders than some of the people I was grateful to be around. And I did what I was able to do to get there and to be a part of it. But man, to be in the room with those guys and to look back on that, it truly doesn't. Sometimes I look back on those years and it doesn't necessarily feel like my life. It feels like I'm telling somebody else's story, because crazy times, you know what I mean? And you look back on it and you're like, man, yeah, that was what, 2013? Yeah, we did that. That happened. Like, it's still a crazy thing, and the guys that are still there, that's what Brigands Co is about too, is supporting those guys that are continuing to do the job, that did re-enlist, and they held their hand up in front of that American flag again and continue to forge the nation's best leaders, and so yeah, the most important thing in the world. It was the only thing that mattered to me coming out of high school. I wrestled growing up, and didn't feel like I wanted to sit in a college classroom if I wasn't going to be a college athlete. And it wasn't foreign to me that our country was, fighting in the global war on terror at the time. And my dad being a veteran, my brother being in a similar position I was, it felt like something that we needed to do and I wanted to experience. And just like most of us are that wear Brigands Co shirts or listen to Prepared to Fight Fire, is if you're going to do it, I'm going to send it all the way. What's the hardest thing there is? Oh, I can get in the special operations command community, if I can get through Ranger selection and the selection program to get in, all right, let's do that. And if I don't make it, I don't make it, but let's go for it. And, like I said, I had a lot of help along the way. I was fortunate enough to make it. And then the rest was out of my hands. I got put into an amazing, with an amazing team leader, in an amazing squad, in an amazing platoon with great leadership. My first deployment was everything I could have asked for. And yeah, when I got out, like I said, it was, I preach this thing, we say it all the time, like, don't live on your laurels, like, don't rest on the accomplishments of your past. And, as much as I try not to ever do that, yeah, it's something that you don't ever want to forget. You don't ever want to stop thinking about those times, because we are proud of it. I'm proud of what, 1 Delta did the times that I was able to serve there. And, yeah, man, like I said, there's you don't ever want to keep looking backwards. There's nothing back there for you. There's only the memory, right? But at the same time, it's nice to go down that path, but in a healthy way. It's I realize, hey, there's things ahead of me in the fire service that can test me just as much as those things that I've accomplished in the past. There's still way more in front of me than there is behind me, and that's something that it takes reminder for sure.
Yeah, I've never been in the military, but I've been a fireman for coming on 10 years, and it's hard. If you do it right, it's fucking hard. Hard profession. It takes just as much from you as it gives to you. And I want to kind of pull, before we dive into that topic, I don't want to leave this just yet because I want to pull some stuff out of you. Number one, I know being a Ranger with being a Ranger comes great leadership skills and abilities, right? So I want to kind of dive into that topic. And I also want to talk about the fortitude it took to get through selection, because you were super, and that's how badasses are, high-speed dudes are. They're just like, yeah, we just got through it. But that doesn't really describe the difficulty that it was to get through selection and to earn those tabs and to hold the title of a Ranger in the military and be in the regiment, not just hold the tab.
Sure.
But so we'll start with leadership. For you, when you say I had great leadership, what does that mean?
When I think back at the regiment and I talk about, when I say I had great leadership, obviously those 2 or 3 guys specifically jump out in my own memory, in my own head. And I think a lot of the time their best quality was just understanding how to individually talk to people, even though they were ahead of a team. And, that's something that I know you've probably touched on 1,000 times, is you can't treat all of your subordinates the same, right? If I'm the squad leader, I can't talk to this guy the same way I can talk to this guy. He's not going to get it. This guy, I can smoke him until I'm tired, and he's still not going to get it. He's a brute. The kid's just a brute. He's not going to get it. You can make him bear crawl some more, but he's not going to understand it. This other guy, he hates push-ups. If I threaten him with more push-ups, then, and this is, obviously, we're not doing this kind of stuff in the fire service. This was very much, the military side of things with corrective action and smoking sessions and stuff. But in the same regard,
corrective action, I like that.
Yeah. So in the same regard, it's just the leaders that I knew best were just aware. They were just they just had a clue. And that's not just personality wise. That's understanding when their guys need to take a knee, and that's also understanding their own role as far as delegation. One of the best squad leaders I ever had, Staff Sergeant Morton, he never operated underneath his level. I felt like, he knew his worth, he knew his rank, he knew his position, and if it came down to little Private Curtis over here, like, screwing up, he would never be the guy to come down and rain hell on me. He'd put the team leader on it and say, okay, and when he's done, you can bring your finished product to me, because he better be tip-top shape, because we've got a deployment coming up. And it was, the chain of command was used at the most effective level, I felt. and the guys that really had a grip on that, I felt like became my best leaders. And the one thing my business partner RJ Casey says all the time, my favorite of all the quotes, this is one of my favorite ones. It's the one that I repeat to myself all the time, and I think it really rubs elbows with this topic, is always keep your cool. Very simple. Very simple. Always keep your cool. And my leadership that did that the best are the guys that I still think about and try to emulate in my own head, in the fire service, in business, wherever. So yeah, I think as far as leadership is, guys that could really just walk the walk. And I know integrity is a word that's thrown around like crazy, but they walk it so much that I would rather fall on my face than give them the smallest bit of disappointment. I wanted to work for them. I wanted to like be led by them. You know what I mean? If they said, follow me, I'd say, where are we going? You know what I mean? That was it. So
That's so badass, man. I gotta be honest with you. I had two guys that really shaped my career, my life, and they were Marines. And well, three guys. One of them passed to suicide, but
sorry to hear that.
All three of them, it's all good, dude. He was a knucklehead. He probably resonated with you very well. But nonetheless, all three of these guys really taught me the fundamentals of leadership. The first thing being, they're not going to ask you to do something they can't do themselves. They're going to put the best person in the best position to accomplish a goal. And they're going to be easily approachable and like have an understanding that communication is huge to have a high functioning team.
Yes.
So those three things really, really were taught to me as far as leadership goes. Now, I think in the fire service, we think that as a leader, you have to be the best. That's the farthest thing from the truth. As a leader, you need to recognize who has the best qualities, right? For the right. That's a great leader. And what people don't understand is a lot of people get this ego trip of, well, I'm not going to let the 2-year or 5-year or driver or lieutenant or what the chief or whatever it is make me look bad. And it's more admirable for you to say, hey, he's the matter expert on this. Like, we're going to have him do it. Or we need this guy to step up. Like, he can't talk in front of a crowd. So, hey, you need to put on this training. Like, or, hey, this guy's on the RIT team. He needs to put on the RIT training, right? And a lot of our guys in the fire service that are in these leadership positions have this mantra of like, I'm the leader. I have to know everything. I'm the leader. They have to listen to me. And it's like, hey, man, that's not leadership. That's
right.
It's arrogance.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's when you run into issues with leaderships or leadership, that has that mentality like, oh, well, I'm the leader, so I do. That's when they have a problem with new suggestions and new opinions and things like that. And I almost feel like that can be blossomed from an unfortunate level of insecurity.
Yeah, and that's just it. There's a lot of born again firefighters. Sure, the same things in the military. You got guys that didn't do shit their entire career. They promote, and now, they start sending orders like they're Rambo, and it's like, hey, dude, where have you been?
I love that saying, dude. That's just making me. I'm still laughing at that. That born again fireman. I've never heard that. That made me laugh.
No, you haven't heard that? Yeah.
No, I love it.
I'm sure you just thought of a few different people that like now they're Chicago firefighters. So
that's funny.
But dude, I love that about leadership. I love that about Rangers. Every Ranger I've met has been a tremendous leader, and it's huge. It's really cool how much passion you guys as that regiment take for that specific topic. I'm sure amongst other ones, but that one specifically is epic. And then let's talk about going through selection and getting. So how does that work exactly? Because I'm unaware. Because I know there's like you can get the tab, but you're not in the regiment, and like
right. So the way I kind of use smoke diver as somewhat of a analogy for getting your Ranger tab, because that's basically what it is. If you go to smoke diver, your job doesn't change, your department doesn't change, your qualifications don't necessarily change, you don't get a promotion, but you come back with a certain set of skills with a certain amount of self accomplishment. You can teach others. It gives you that sense of leadership. I can go on and on, but it doesn't necessarily change where you're at. Well, that's similar to what I think, I would describe Ranger School as. It's a leadership school, no different than Smoke Diver is a class with certification at the end of it. You pass or fail. That's how Ranger School is. But you go and you get your Ranger tab, and you go right back to the unit where you came from. And it does look good on promotion boards and stuff like that, obviously, but you're held at a different regard because you have accomplished this extremely agonizing leadership program or leadership school. Going through what was formerly RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program, switched over to RASP, which is Ranger Assessment and Selection Program, 8-week selection, and cut into 2 4-week phases. The first 4-week phase is, I would say the most hellish. And then as you get through into phase 2, you should see it through to graduation at that point, pending any injuries or failing a land nav or 12-mile ruck march, something like that. Most of those guys will see graduation, but you're starting to learn a little bit more on the back half. In the first half, it's a lot of rucks on your back. You're doing land navigation, late nights, early mornings, hard PT, lots of smoke sessions. And then you have your hell week, which is your coal range, which is your 6-day little fun in the woods that they do out there. So that's fun. You get your pants standing up straight with no one standing in them at the end of the week and all that good stuff. So it's that's a fun time out there. Again, my time going through, I was lucky enough. I give my brother full credit. He went through a year before I did, and he looks exactly like I do. We're both, shorter guys. We're not huge. We see eye to eye with each other, and, our strong suit is PT tests, and, dunking basketballs is our weakness for sure. So we were not like your typical big bad barrel-chested freedom fighter dudes. We were wrestlers from Texas that were a generally small build. I went through at 140 pounds when I went through selection, and that was only because we trained properly. I didn't do a lot of unnecessary movement. I knew what Ranger selection had in store for me. It was a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups and pull-ups and the calisthenics. And then it's a lot of weight on your back and running around in boots. So lots of ruck marches. I went into things like that pretty prepared. I felt like I knew what was coming for me. And the biggest thing from there was just find a sick group and just be homies through the whole thing. And you guys just build your own army within the army, man. I had these like 4 killer guys that all, were there for the same reason. And I don't think we stopped laughing the whole time. And it was like, dude, I mean, we're making fart jokes in the middle of the night while we're chafing so bad there's like blood on your hands when you touch the insides of your legs. And we're just like, trying to find the joy in all of it. You know what I mean? And I still talk to those guys to this day. And I did have some absolutely really down days in selection. One day at Coal Range, which was our hell week, where, man, I thought I was gone that day. I felt like a raisin sitting in the sun. You know what I mean? I was just getting baked. It was August in, Columbus, Fort Benning, Georgia at the time. And I'm sitting there just like feeling sorry for myself. They're teaching a class that I'm just hearing like muffled voices. I'm not even there. And, my buddy Hagen at the time, he stands up next to me. He saw me like, seeing the wizard. I was dehydrated. My electrolytes were all off. And he stands up while everyone else is sitting down in the middle of this field getting baked, stands up in front of me and kind of widens his body out and stands as big as he can. And he just casts a shadow over me. And I was just like huddled, sat in his little shadow. And I don't know if it was mental or what, but I felt like I immediately got 10 degrees cooler just when he stood up and was sitting there. And I had the shakes, and I was in that place for sure. And little things like that, being able to rely on people is as much as it was about my scroll and my tan beret and my accomplishment. You are there as a team, man, and nobody gets that scroll on their own. It's what they say about the Ranger tab as well. Like, I earn your Ranger tab and you earn my Ranger tab. That's how it works, man. And nobody goes alone. So yeah, RASP, I really found some areas that tested me to the fullest. Even my 12-mile ruck, I had a really hard time with at the end. I had gotten shin splints so bad and the lactic acid buildup in your legs. I had hauled butt, the first 6 miles. I hit the second 6 miles and my legs blew up on me. And, really, really shows you how to dig deep. But those experiences are just continued as you get your assignment, as you go to Ranger Battalion, you meet your team leader. That is when the operation tempo changes your life. When you show up to work in the morning, to work as an infantryman in the Ranger Regiment, it's a nervous feeling walking into that cough at 6 a.m., getting ready for PT. You're scared about getting smoked. You're scared about, dude, this training's probably going to be pretty tough. They're going to try and test me today, man. I'm the new guy. They're going to break me off. But as you get used to that tempo and just anything can happen at any time. They could blow this whistle behind me and I could be like open hand fist fighting with other privates because they want to see who's the toughest Ranger here. Like, that stuff happens, but as you get accustomed to that, that is where you start to pick up the leadership qualities. When you learn how to keep your cool, when you can walk in with your chest held high and say, you know what, dude, I don't care what the workout is today. It doesn't matter. Like, we're going to freaking crush it. And I'm going to smoke every one of these guys. They're all going to be looking at my ass when I'm running up this hill. Watch. Like, dude, once you unlock that mentality, forget about it, dude. Forget about it.
But that comes with experience. You know what I mean? That comes.
Of course.
Part of the process is coming in, and I think we've lost that in the fire service. We have a lot of people come in now. At least I'm sure it's the same thing everywhere, but they don't have that fear. They don't have that I have something to prove. Like, they think just because when they make it through, probably school or probation or whatever academy orientation, that they've made it, that they've made something. And like, I'm here to tell you, and I'm nobody, but I am going to tell you this: you haven't made anything. Like, literally, it takes years of consistent action, consistent good deeds to create a name. And dude, I've tarnished my name multiple times, and I just come to realize I like doing things the hard way. It's just knucklehead, dude, and that's just who I am. So I've had to climb up a couple mountaintops multiple times from mistakes that I've made. But nonetheless, still every day I show up and I put out in every area to show people who I really am, And like you just said, you come in, you're not sure, you're going to give it your all, and you're nervous, right? And I want people to understand that's normal. It's okay. That's a part of the experience. Because then now, when you get past that and you do have that chest out mentality and you're confident and you're like, hey, man, I'm going to fucking send whatever comes my way. When the new guy's struggling or the new guy's nervous, he's making mistakes, you can resonate with him. You can say, hey, man, I've been there. I gave a shit. I cared so much. I was nervous as shit too. It's a part of it, dude. Enjoy it. Embrace that process.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that is so true. And that's the biggest key into somebody actually caring is like nervous. Yeah, that's why I'm nervous. If I wasn't nervous, I'd be in there and be like, yeah, whatever, So that's the first thing I think when I'm nervous as crap about something and I'm high anxiety and I'm doing all the math in my head about all the rabbit hole scenario, what ifs and everything. I try and calm myself like that all the time is, hey, pull it back, keep it cool. You're just nervous because you care, man. That's it. That's all this is. Just dial it back in and let's go in there. And, and as you, again, that was not how I was at 18, 19 years old as a Ranger private. Dude, I was the guy that could prep, tenfold, and I would be self-doubting myself walking through the front door. Like, I don't even deserve to be here, man. Holy God. I was the PT stud in Ranger selection, 400 club. I had 127 push-ups in 2 minutes and like crazy numbers. And every time I would throw up in the grass because I was so nervous that I was like not gonna make it. And it's just this like, and it took, and I still have a bit of that, you know what I mean? I think that drives me, and I think that's what gets me in gear and on the rainy days, I think. But at the same time, it was like a beast that I really did need to tame. And it just came from experience, man. It just came from just being there day in and day out, keep showing up for PT, keep making mistakes, hurry up and fail so you can learn a little bit faster, man. And over time, that's when you just, and again, guys coming into the fire service that are younger, that might not have those prior jobs or that prior experience. That's something that I always try and talk to them. You talk about your mistakes. Dude, I love telling people how much I've messed up in the past, because people see the Brigands Co page or they see social media and they think that I'm like some cool guy. Like, dude, I'm really not, man. Make no mistake. Social media is a fickle beast. You know what I mean? But by no means am I a salty firefighter. I'm trying to be. That's one day, maybe. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get there and somebody else will call me that.
Right.
But right now, man, I can't control how many structure fires I fight next year. I can't control, how many MVAs and how much, slots open for the next tech school. But what I can do is I can get in gear. And if there's a new guy that's a little bit younger than me, I'm going to try and ask him to come train with me and get him out there. And when I teach, I learn. So let's just keep doing that until somebody else calls me salty.
And I love that. I love that. So talk to me. You just went to the Asia City Fire Expo. How was that?
Yeah, man, so great. So I took 2 classes, me and my buddy, shout out Brandon Essig. We always go to these things and room together. So another great guy on the crew. Get that crew continuity together, when you're doing a primary search with somebody that you have beers on the weekend with, their families really well, you work shifts together, you've had some crazy calls on the ambulance together. Dude, you put us in a room together and we don't talk very much, but we know what's going on, and that's always great to feel, so anytime you get that camaraderie, that's what I love most about these conferences. But yeah, first day we took save your own fast. We were working with the fast board and really focusing on hey, we're on a hose line, my guy goes down, whether it's a heart attack or a partial collapse, something happens and I need to get him out and I don't have a RIT bag, I'm not a part of a RIT team, call up my mayday, what are some good drags, what are some good things that I can be working on there. So super fun. That kind of tacked on to what we had done at the Orlando Fire Conference earlier this year. We did the One Bad Day course and super fun. So then going into the Save Your Own Fast felt like, it was rubbing elbows with that a little bit, at least in the same headspace. And then we rolled over day 2 or day 3 was the Down and Dirty with East Coast Fire Tactics. Nate and those guys over there, and that was just
Nate Karn. He's a fucking
yeah, he's the man. Yeah, those East Coast Fire Tactics boys, love what they got going on over there. We're looking to work with them a lot more in the near future on some pretty cool stuff coming up. But put on a great course just from guys that walk the walk and are super practical. That's what I love about it the most, man. It's like, we're gonna do this safe, we're gonna do it aggressive, we're going to take it all, but we're going to take it right. Like, that's the mentality. And, thinking about things as you're searching, really honing in on, hey, I'm going in for a aggressive search with purpose. I'm not in here trying to touch every square foot of this house just to say that I touched it. Like, it's not always about hugging. It's not always about like, hey, come off of that, bump off of your buddy, like use him because you know where he's at and he's on a wall. Like, use these different techniques and these communication skills and all of this stuff. And to be in that practical environment over and over and over, iteration. You want another one? Go back in there. We'll throw some more dummies in there for you, and it was just great, man. I couldn't have asked for anything better. It came back yesterday. I was on shift and we had a probationary guy on overtime that I hadn't worked with before. So I was like, hey, man, you want to learn some stuff? Because I need to teach what I just learned to make sure it kind of syncs with me a little bit. I've been dying to show somebody this stuff. So perfect all around, man. 10 out of 10. Had a great time.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I just got back from Indiana a couple months ago, and
Nice.
we took FDTN, which is Fire Department Training Network. So
okay,
there's a group of guys, one of them being Jim McCormick. He's really set up an amazing facility for training. I would have to say I haven't taken every class in the world. I'm pretty novice with 10 years of experience. It's very low, but that was the best hands-on training I've ever done in my life. It was realistic. It was hot. It was a high level of instruction, and the mannequins were legit. The props were legit. The buildings were legit. I mean, everything was legit. But one of the guys, Sandy Lassie, he was a Rescue One boss in Boston. He's retired, but he really emphasizes the tripod position and how important it is to keep your head up while searching, right? Like, I want you guys to see as the day goes on how your head starts to fall when you're searching, when you get tired. And I'm like, oh man, in my head as he's teaching, I'm like, man, I'm usually pretty disciplined. I stay like head up, squared up, and I move with purpose. I don't really choo-choo train like they taught us at fire school. And man, let me tell you, dude, I was choo-choo trained and I realized it in the moment. And I'm like, dude, pick your head up. And like, it's tough. Like, once you start getting the reps in and you're doing effective searches, and like now you're paying attention to your posture, and like you actually aren't just doing a primary for the fuck of it, but actually understanding what the purpose is and how to do it effectively and fast. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. But dude, as far as training goes, you have to put yourself in other environments with learning from other people. Your department across the country, this goes for anybody, is only going to teach you so much, right? If you don't expand your box of learning, your box of relevance, like you'll never really know what's what. Now, obviously, certain people teach things with certain SOPs and SOGs and staffing, but nonetheless, it makes you think like, hey, are we doing things the best way? Are we aggressive enough? Are we too aggressive? Are we reckless? Like, what's going on? One thing cool about going up there, it really highlighted the firefighter from Florida is a better all-around firefighter, I believe, than anywhere in the country, because staffing for the most part in Florida is not 5-man engines, 6-man trucks, right? Like you're usually rocking 300 engine, 200 an ambulance that has truck company capabilities. That's the reality of it, right? And then we even got some departments in Florida that are 2 and 2. Your bigger departments have 4 and 3, 4 on the engine truck, and then 3 on the ambulance. But nonetheless, you look at a Florida firefighter and he's well-rounded, to say the least.
Sure.
But dude, absolutely, I love giving back to the new guys. I love hammering them, and sometimes they could probably say I'm a little too much. But I had a talk with this guy the other day. Shout out to Tanner, and I said, hey man, understand that it's all love here. Like I really love you as a coworker, as a brother. But there's a time to be friends, and there's a time for me to be your senior firefighter. And I think a lot of guys coming in don't understand that. They get their feelings hurt and they get emotional. Like, listen, I need to make sure that I test you physically and mentally. I need to make sure that you're squared away as far as understanding equipment, as far as operational, and then the actually ins and outs of it. And I need to make sure that you are on your toes, that it's not always just friendly as fuck or laughs and giggles. Like, you're new, man. Like, you got to understand a relationship. You see guys that are cutting up, and you see guys that are just like, man, those guys look like brothers. They're just so happy. Like, they're always having a good time. That's usually formed over years of trust, years of running calls, years of making mistakes, years of going through things that have warranted that relationship. So I think and tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of guys coming in want that immediately. And it's like, dude, I'm sure it's the same thing in the military. You got to earn that. It takes time.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. Like, everybody loves instant gratification, right? But the reason why that brotherhood bond and that crew that you see, laughing their asses off in the store or whatever, like, the reason they're like that, most likely, at least in my experience, is because they've all kind of bought in. Like, they've all done their time to kind of earn their seat at that table. And I'm not just talking about earn your seat at the table as the fire department, but you earn your seat at the table with that friend group. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, this guy has been like going above and beyond. He has been like really putting in the time. And yeah, dude, I want to know what that guy's about a little bit more. He's a good guy, you know what I mean? Like whatever. He's a good, good guy, good girl, whatever. Like that's awesome, man. And again, it's just I always tell people like, what are you gonna want when the roles are switched? When you're that 10-year guy, how are you gonna want your new hire coming in? Are you gonna want somebody that acts just like you? That, I'm not saying like this all determines whether you are a good or a poor performing firefighter, but it's like even me as a 4-year guy, I go to a station, outlying station, and I've got a 11-year driver with a 17-year lieutenant. Who the heck do you think is taking out the trash? It ain't freaking the driver, and it's damn sure not the lieutenant. Like, do you think that I have a problem with that? Like, I still am that way. I'm still depending on where I'm at, you know what I mean? I'm making coffee. It better be good, or I'm going to get crap for it in the morning. I'm going to hear all about it, I'm going to hear about how Curtis thinks I've earned my place. I still have plenty to earn, man. And, when I see those guys come in, all anybody wants is effort, right? Nobody expects a new guy to come in and just be without fail. Like, no, but you just want, when I say, hey, man, is there anything you want to train on today? You got any questions for anything? Nobody wants a shoulder shrug. Yeah, I'm asking you, but I'm poking you.
Right.
I know it sounds like a question, but I'm poking you with a big stick. And I'm like, hey, do something. Like, you want to train today? That means I'm waiting for an answer because I'm going to let you dictate it, but we're going to go do something. So that's another thing, man. Like I said, it's just
regardless of your answer, we're doing something.
right, exactly. And it's like, but for the sake of how this looks to everybody sitting in the kitchen right now, it would behoove you to give an answer. When in doubt, just say ladders.
I love to go to ladder. Well, man, I really appreciate. We could talk for hours. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. You guys can all find him online. I'll put him in the in the bio for this episode. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This podcast will be nothing without you, brother. Thank you for coming on, sharing your experience. There were so many takeaways in this episode, and I'm super grateful for you and this opportunity.
Man, Julian, I appreciate it, dude. I've been a big fan of Prepared to Fight Fire, and dude, I hope to work with you a little bit more soon. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're if you want to check out what Brigands Co got going on, we're at Brigands_Co on Instagram. Check out our website, grab you some gear, all that good stuff. Other than that, we'll see you out there, man. Thanks again, Julian.
Thank you.
Be safe, man.